Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Edouard and Ngirente, Prime Minister, Republic of Rwanda.
Concordia's leadership, Concordia members, distinguished participants, all protocol observed. I am pleased to address this gathering at the 2021 Concordia Annual Summit, representing His Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda. He had wished to participate, but could not due to other commitments. I thank the Concordia co-founders for the kind invitation extended to him. This is a testimony of your trust in his visionary leadership. The Concordia Annual Summit presents a commendable opportunity to reflect on the state of global challenges. It is also an occasion to bring together Concordia community to share best practices and explore new opportunities for strategic partnerships. Distinguished participants, the challenges that Africa faces today require a new mindset. The pandemic has made clear Africa's need for more self-reliance in strategic sectors such as manufacturing and infrastructure. To kickstart this important conversation, I would like to share with you some lessons from the Rwandan experience in our journey toward more self-reliance in infrastructure and manufacturing. These key lessons revolve around three topics, namely leveraging private sector-led development with a conducive environment and reforms for long-term growth, promoting innovation and going digital, as well as supporting recovery through manufacturing and other targeted actions. Distinguished participants, in the context of private sector-led growth based on strategic structural policies, Rwanda's business climate remains favorable to investment, offering stability and transparency. Reforms follow a holistic approach covering good governance, macroeconomic stability, and business climate. In 2016, the government of Rwanda enacted the Public-Private Partnership Law. This was a part of a broad regulatory and institutional framework for public-private partnerships to provide clarity, transparency, and efficiency to investors. Partnerships with the private sector are at the core of Rwanda's trade readiness. For example, Rwanda is implementing the Electronic World Trade Platform project. We believe that manufacturing sector will also play a significant role in economic development of African continent. In this regard, since 2018, manufacturing has started re-emerging with a 12% share of GDP in 2020. This is a clear indication that manufacturing is retaking shape and it holds potential as Africa navigates the path to the post-pandemic recovery. There is also a great expectation with the implementation of African Continental Free Trade Area, and this is a single market of 1.3 billion people for goods and services in Africa. It is expected to unlock manufacturing potential and facilitate industrialization, driving sustainable growth and creating jobs. The challenges of accessing sufficient vaccine supplies came as a wake-up call for Africa to scale up production of crucial medical products such as vaccines. In this regard, Rwanda is one of the African countries planning to set up a plant for vaccine manufacturing. Today, we are glad that all those initiatives are delivering tangible results. Projections show that our economy is expected to grow by 5.1% in 2021. Distinguished participants, as I conclude, I would like to emphasize that now, more than ever, It is important to join forces to support private sector development and improve our African economic growth. Let's make the most out of the discussion today with this recommendable panel that includes the private sector and the public sector actors. I'm confident that this will bring to the table innovative and partnership-driven solutions. On behalf of President Paul Kagame, I once again thank Concordia's leadership for the invitation to take part of this conversation. I wish you a fruitful deliberations at this year's Concordia Annual Summit. Thank you.
Please welcome Samir Ibrahim, CEO and founder of SunCulture.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Excited to be here today. The world has had to rapidly adapt after the global disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. This need to adapt and develop self-reliance was largely felt on the African continent following the disruption of global supply chains, which cut off access to medical goods as well as created challenges for the distribution of the COVID-19 vaccines. Today, we'll explore why it is so important for Africa to develop its infrastructure and manufacturing sectors and promote self-reliance and cross-border collaboration with a wonderful panel. We have Patience Mutesi, the country manager of Rwanda for TradeMark East Africa. We have permanent secretary for the Ministry of Trade and Industry for Rwanda, Yves Bernard Ningabire. And we have Clarisse, Iribagiza, the CEO at DMM, HeHe Limited, a Carmen Fellow and a member of the AFDB's Presidential Youth Advisory Group. We only have about 15 minutes, actually about 12 minutes for questions. So I'll ask for all of our panelists to keep their responses to 2 minutes, and we'll start with Ms. Patience. The African Continental Free Trade Area is made up of 54 African countries merging into a single market of 1.3 billion people. TradeMark East Africa's mission is to grow prosperity in East Africa through increased trade. What do you anticipate being the impact of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area on your organization's mission, and have you started seeing this impact today?
Well, thank you very much, Samir, and it's a great opportunity for me to be here to speak about the work that we're doing at TradeMark East Africa. And to give you a bit of a background, we are an organization that was set up as an aid for trade organization with a mandate to increase trade in East Africa. We contribute towards increasing trade by removing barriers to trade and increasing the competitiveness of the private sector. So in our work, we work really closely with the national governments in the countries where we operate. We don't work as a standalone. The way we see the African Continental Free Trade Area is an opportunity to increase our work beyond just East Africa and cover the rest of Africa. We are currently in about 13 countries in East Africa, including Rwanda, Burundi, DRC, Kenya, Tanzania, etc. So we are covering East Africa, but also moving down south. And the reason we're doing that is that there is demand for the services that we're providing to our clients, which is the government as well as the private sector. So 5 days ago, TradeMark East Africa had an opportunity to sign a memorandum of understanding with the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat in Lome. And some of the areas where we want to support is really implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Specifically, some of the things that we want to do is around collaboration on customs, transit, and trade facilitation. We want to support standards harmonization and mutual recognition of standards across countries in Africa. We want to develop digital trade backbone through trade development, trade corridor development. And we also want to work with the private sector to increase their capacity to trade by developing regional value chains to help these firms increase their capacity to add value. And then finally, we also want to collaborate with countries, with the 54 countries, to develop Africa's cross-border trade with a special focus on women, youth, and MSMEs.
Thank you so much, Patience. Let's continue on with the digital side of things, like you mentioned, and I'll move to Clarisse. Your company develops supply chain and e-commerce solutions for businesses in Rwanda. What role will e-commerce play in the promotion of intra-African trade, trade between Africa and the world, and the streamlining of supply chains?
Thank you so much, Samir, and thank you for having me here today. The short answer to your question is that e-commerce will simply fast track the realization of this dream of intra-Africa trade through the Africa Continental Free Trade area, as well as global trade. I'm on this call today, reaching to you from the e-commerce center. It's the first of its kind in Kigali, Rwanda. And the goal of this, it's been developed through a private-public partnership with a vision to increase access to e-commerce tools and services for SMEs. So e-commerce infrastructure like this, which includes e-fulfillment services, digital payments, marketplaces, 3D printers for sort of pre-industrial production, will enable Africa to aggregate its fragmented resources and capabilities to make them more affordable and therefore accessible, leading to better allocation of resources, especially for SMEs. So just quickly to conclude, first of all, with e-commerce technologies and supply chain technologies, an SME will be able to map demand for its products and services anywhere in the world, and be able to meet that need. And also consumers will know what products are out there. A lot of consumers in Africa are buying goods from across the world because they don't know what's available on the continent. So e-commerce is a great opportunity for us to be able to map what products exist, what services are there. And secondly, be able to meet this demand with the technology that we're talking about, the infrastructure that we have. An SME is able to deliver its product, its good to one part of the continent, at the fraction of the cost that they would be able to do that previously, simply because of these mutualized resources that I'm talking about. So e-commerce will be a key pillar for the Africa Continental Free Trade Area by enabling the mapping of this demand and supply, aggregating of resources, such as logistics, payments, and reducing transaction costs to bring about efficiencies in trade. Thank you.
I would love to visit that center when I'm next in Kigali, and thank you both for keeping your answers to time. Let's move on to a government that's been an innovator in this space. PS Ningabire. The government of Rwanda has put in place various interventions to boost the manufacturing sector. What's been the impact of these initiatives, and going forward, what do you suspect will be your sector's targeted growth rate?
Thank you very much, Samir. First of all, I want to say that as a ministry, we are responsible for providing a policy support in terms of putting in place the required environment. We have got a number of policies ranging from trade policies, the Made in Rwanda policy, the domestic market recapturing strategy, and other policies, which have really been able to help. This is also coupled with a number of other interventions put in place by government, like putting in place industrial parks, the special economic zones, but also with related infrastructure, utilities, and other ecosystems. Now, looking at the growth of the industry, the manufacturing, we have registered a contribution that increased of the industry as a percentage of GDP, which increased from 14.5 in 2016 to 19% in 2019, which is also considerable. But as you asked, this sector is also expected to provide a great contribution to achieving the Vision 2050 targets of achieving an upper middle income status by 2035 and high income status by 2050. So we expect manufacturing sector to play a very big role, but also this sector will contribute significantly to the development of the decent and productive employment, where we target 200,000 jobs created per year as per the national strategy for transformation. So through manufacturing and diversification of products for exports and for domestic consumption, we really, with a higher value of manufactured goods, we believe that these targets are going to be achieved in close collaboration with the various stakeholders. Thank you so much, Samir.
Absolutely, and thank you for your response. We have a few minutes left, and this is one of my favorite questions to ask people, and I know you weren't prepped for this, so Excited to see what your responses will be today. What would it take to start to shift the production of even light manufacturing for key goods to sub-Saharan Africa? If you had $1 billion or 1 trillion Rwandan francs to invest today, no strings attached, what would you put your money in? And I'm going to start with PS Yves right now, because I'm sure he's thought about this many times over. PS, no strings attached, no one else's preferences but yours, 1 trillion Rwandan francs, $1 billion. What do you put money into to move light manufacturing to Rwanda?
Thank you very much. As I said, the first priority should be to really remove any barrier to trade. As a ministry, of course, on our side, our main focus is to really put in place institutions and instruments that remove all barriers to trade and investment. But also the second is to establish proper collaborations with the private sector, of course, but with also some other actors in the sector. So we believe at the ministry level, this could be the main role, while other stakeholders like the private sector now would use the same money, as you said, now to start investing into that. Thank you.
Let's ask the private sector. Clarisse, what would you do?
Agriculture. I would advance that in the agriculture value chain. I see that as a great opportunity, and also Africasa for us becoming a much more industrialized economy. So I would definitely bet on the agriculture supply chain.
Any part of the supply chain in particular, or for the entire supply chain?
Post.
I think your internet cut a bit, but I was hearing you saying post-harvest production, post-harvest losses, which is one of the key drivers for one, greenhouse gas emissions, and the ability for Africa to stop spending what is projected to be $100 billion importing food by 2030. So I actually agree with you there. Patience, $1 billion, 1 trillion Rwandan francs. What do you do to move manufacturing to the continent?
I would first of all invest in making sure that we have a steady supply of the raw materials, because we know that there are a number of companies that fail because they cannot get a sustained supply of raw materials. So invest heavily in assuring that you have raw materials steady supply. Secondly, invest heavily in value addition. So whatever it is, whatever value chain that you select, make sure that we're adding value. The biggest challenge that we have is that the continent is exporting extractives, the continent is extracting raw materials without any value addition. So value addition is really important if we're going to see economic growth, job creation, and getting people out of poverty. So that would be my priority.
And since we have the PS in the room right now, do you have one request for the Rwandan government right now? What would you ask to help promote manufacturing in Africa? Patience.
Samir, that's a tough question because we do work closely with the government already. I would say let's promote small-scale trade. There's a lot of opportunity to get people out of poverty by focusing on small-scale traders, and to ensure that none of them is left behind as we're talking about economic growth. But just to answer your question, we work very closely with the government, and I believe that everything we have requested, they are currently delivering. Thank you.
You don't hear that all the time, and that's really good to hear. Thank you, everyone, so much. Looking forward to building a continent where manufacturing is key, where we can support ourselves and build resiliency around manufacturing and supply chain so that we become more resilient to shocks like the global pandemic. Thank you, everyone. Have a really lovely day.
Thank you, Samir. Good day.